Hello, I'm Dr. Pribil. I'm a board-certified neurosurgeon. I specialize in diseases of the neck, mid-back, as well as the low back. I'm here to help you understand the symptoms you may be having after an automobile or a trucking accident or after a spontaneous disc rupture. I focus on understanding the nature of your pain, and then I address it in the least invasive way that I can to help you. One thing I like to do for my patients, their legal representatives and insurance companies, is to give them a video interpretation reading of the spine MRI and denote the problems that exist and see if there's any surgical intervention that might be helpful to alleviate the discomfort. I do this because the average individual does not understand the reading of an MRI, and I think it's very important that they understand these significant findings, how it causes their pain, and how it contributes to their neurological findings. Here we have an MRI of a young lady who was struck in the rear by another car and propelled forward and experienced sudden acceleration-deceleration forces, and she injured her neck. And we see the effect of those acceleration-deceleration forces in the form of evidence of disc herniations at several levels in the neck that she has, particularly at the level of 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5, 6. You see these protrusions here, and centrally, when you switch to the axial imaging, they look like this. This is a disc herniation, and notice how it compresses the anterior margin of the spinal cord. Above that, the spinal cord is nice and round, but at the level of the disc herniation, it gets indented, as you see here. And then the indentation gets even worse when you get to the 4-5 level. Again, you see a little neutral reduction. There's still a little bit of a disc herniation, but notice that what happens at the 4-5 level is this disc herniation again is indenting the spinal cord, causing compression of nerves that are in this entire spinal cord, and that's what creates the pain, that's what creates the neurological findings. When we go even further lower down to the C5-6 level, you see that she progresses from a nice oval spinal cord to a flattened spinal cord, much like you see here, with narrowing of these exiting nerve roots both on the right side as well as on the left side. So she has probably a little bit more of a left-sided symptomatology, plus she has a spinal cord findings. She also has findings to the right side. So this is how the MRI readings can help decipher and focus on the clinical findings and justify and actually explain why a patient has neck pain. The typical routine reading of a radiology of this MRI would reveal that this is probably minor type of bulges instead of actual disc herniation. But when you really critically analyze this and magnify and look at the distances front to back that show whether there is a normal caliber to the spinal cord. Typically what I do is I magnify it, and I go to this tool I have here, which allows me to measure the distance front to back. And when I measure, let's say at this level, which is behind the body of C5, I get a 6.24 millimeter front to back distance. When I go to the disc herniation at the 5-6 level and I measure again the distance front to back of the spinal cord at that level, I come up with about a 5.9, 5.1. So there's a whole millimeter worth of difference, which indicates that at the 5-6 disc herniation level, there is an indentation and pressure on the spinal cord. So imagine what happens to the nerve fibers that course through the spinal cord, and of course you know that there's about 1 million nerve fibers running up and down. So this degree of difference in the pressure implies that the same number of fibers has to go through a narrower space, meaning they're crowded, they're crunched, and there's pressure on the nerves, there's pressure on the blood vessels, and it leads to certain physiological abnormalities that are expressed then as pain and as neurological weakness or numbness. So reading and analyzing the distances of the spinal cord when there are compressed areas is crucial to determining the clinical correlation to the radiographical findings. And again, if I look at this area here, we're back to about probably 6.3 front to back. So it opens up. So you can clearly appreciate the compression right through the area of the disc herniation. In this particular situation, this patient, depending on the clinical findings, I would have to see about the strength in her deltoids, in her bicep muscle, the reflexes, the brachioradialis reflex, the biceps and the triceps reflex, and to see if they have weakness in their wrist, weakness in the grip. I would have to see what is the situation with the sensation, whether there is numbness on one side. I would anticipate, because of this pressure of this nerve root outlet here on the left side, that she's going to have a significant numbness along the left hand, the base of thumb and the index finger. And if that's the case indeed, then I would recommend that she have an artificial disc replacement here. All of this needs to be removed and decompressed, and an artificial disc would be my choice for providing normal motion and for allowing this patient to enjoy her life. Whether the levels above, like the 4-5, whether this needs to be decompressed or not is again to be determined by the examination. If she has symptoms higher up in the deltoids, then I might have to incorporate the C4-5 level as well. But that would have to be determined by the clinical examination. For those of patients who are out there who have been told that they need surgery and who have been contemplating surgery but are concerned about doing surgery and have heard rumors and friends and family and neighbors are telling them, oh, don't have surgery, you will have a complication, I can assure you that in the 37 years that I've done cervical surgeries and lumbar surgeries, I've perfected the techniques to really help patients, first with lumbar and cervical fusions many years ago, and more recently with the artificial disc replacement surgery in the neck, which is an extremely beneficial surgery for patients with neck pain, all in the outpatient setting. So we can do these surgeries now outside of the hospital in an ambulatory setting to help get you on your feet as soon as possible.